Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to take a quick look for the planet Mercury. In a recent video, we caught Mercury just above the sunset towards the end of the month. We are now into June, so of course the sunset is going to be getting later, as late as it can get. And that means that we're going to have to stay up pretty late to catch anything that is only visible at sunset, as Mercury is. Well, there's the moon. I definitely saw Mercury around the sunset over the past couple of videos towards the end of the month. But Mercury's greatest elongation is in July. So, to see exactly when we're going to see Mercury and when it's going to look its best, we are going to take a look here at the sky without any atmosphere. We can see the sun and Mercury, how far away they are from each other. So coming back a little bit closer to the current date, there is Mercury to the side of the sun. So Mercury is above the horizon when the sun is setting, but of course from our location here in Ireland, there's still far too much sunlight there at sunset for Mercury to be visible. So we'll have to keep moving forward, and we can see Mercury getting further and further from the sun there, reaching its greatest elongation, turning around and coming back the other way. So it definitely looks like Mercury's making that turn there around the 31st and the 1st, but those aren't the dates that I saw for Mercury's greatest elongation. So this could be down to the angle at which we're seeing it from here in Ireland. We'll come back a little bit. We're still a little bit into the future here, so we can let the sun get a little bit lower. But as you can see, there's still plenty of light there creeping above the horizon. So Mercury and Jupiter still aren't visible. We'll keep moving forward. Mercury is there, up behind that tree, but it's at least a significant distance from the sun. So hopefully it'll still be visible above the horizon, just there, even with the atmosphere on. And there it is. Barely visible, but just about visible there. If we take a closer look at Mercury, we should see a half Mercury when Mercury is at its greatest elongation. It is close to its greatest elongation here, so we're seeing very close to a half Mercury. The amount of the surface of the planet that's lit up, it really tells us what side of the planet is facing the sun relative to the side of the planet facing us. So of course Mercury and Venus, they never look fully illuminated from the Earth. Either their dark side will be towards the Earth or they will be on the far side of the sun. Mercury should be continuing further away from the sun, but as you can see for us here in Ireland, it seems to be dropping under the horizon. It's there hidden behind that tree. So we'll head to the zero horizon. Of course, there isn't anywhere where the sky will be completely flat all the way around, as this zero horizon will simulate. But you don't need the sky to be completely flat the whole way around. As long as you've got a clear view out to the west, well, practically the northwest, that is all you need to get a good glimpse of Mercury. We can see here coming back, it actually looks a little bit brighter around here, around the 23rd. But again, this is for us here in Ireland. It may reach further from the sun, but at the wrong angle for us to see it from here. Either way, we can see coming back here, Mercury still visible just above the horizon there on the 10th of this month. And if we come back a little bit more, there's Mercury and Jupiter just above the horizon. But of course, this is just above the horizon. The atmosphere is going to be extincting these things, making them seem fainter, and anything obscuring your view of the low horizon there towards the northwest is going to make things, well, pretty impossible to see. In a reasonably recent video, we took a look at a sunrise in October 22nd, and that far in the future, Mercury and Jupiter are close enough together that you can see Jupiter's moons and Mercury in the sky together. It looks like that's not going to be possible for us at the end or for the early part of June. Jupiter will only be in the sky with Mercury for the early part of June. As you can see, Jupiter continues, or we continue to move in such a way as that Jupiter ends up behind the sun, whereas Mercury is going to keep pushing further and further out until it reaches its furthest elongation, turns around and starts coming back in again. Now we can see there that Mercury is sort of curving across the sky. There is a very good chance, a better chance than not, that we are seeing Mercury's angle of inclination relative to the ecliptic. So we'll get an ecliptic turned on here, and there's Mercury. So we can see that Mercury seems very much above the ecliptic, and then it seems to cross the ecliptic as we come forward to here. But you should also see the angle of the ecliptic is changing pretty drastically. As we move into the past, the angle of the ecliptic there at sunset is a lot steeper, whereas as we move back up to today and into the future, we can see the angle of the ecliptic is far more shallow. So that means even though Mercury is definitely as far from the sun there as it is here, because it's closer to the horizon and closer to that glow of sunlight, it's not going to be visible, even though it should be pretty similar. Well, it will be a little bit brighter when more of the face of Mercury is facing us. So we can see that Mercury is at its brightest there when it's almost behind the sun. It's much, much fainter as it comes past its point of greatest elongation. If we take a closer look at Mercury, we should see why. So here we should see, yep, a little bit less than a half Mercury. If we come back, we'll come back to that half Mercury. And if we keep moving back, we've got closer to a full Mercury. So even though it is fighting with a lot more of the glow of sunset, more of the face of Mercury is sending sunlight back in our direction. So even though Mercury is closer to us when it's on our side of the sun, it looks brighter when it's further from us on the far side of the sun. And that's just because of the amount of the face of Mercury that we're seeing illuminated, less when Mercury is almost between us and the sun. That's how Mercury is going to look at sunset from here in Ireland. We're going to quickly pop to the equator. Roughly the equator. It's very hard to click exactly on the equator, but roughly, this is pretty close to the equator here. So now we can see, of course, we're after changing time zone a little bit here as well. So we're going to have to change the time, move back a little bit closer to today, and then we'll change the time to bring Mercury above the horizon. And here we are on the 7th, so Mercury and Jupiter pretty close together. And there they are, much further above the horizon. We're still looking at a sky here with light pollution. This is still pretty much the kind of sky we would get to see from the city. Of course, you'll get to see these things. Oh, there is one of Jupiter's moons. There's Ganymede, just about visible. Now, of course, you need a very wide field of view and a lot of magnification to capture this, so that's going to be very hard. If you do have a spectacularly wide telescope, then maybe you'll be able to pull it off. But we can see here Mercury continuing to rise higher, crossing the ecliptic there around its greatest elongation, which is in the future there in July, and then coming back down on the other side. So even though Mercury, as it comes down here, is getting a lot closer to us, as Mercury crosses this line, it's reaching its furthest point from the sun and coming around to our side of the sun. We can see that if we move a little bit later, Mercury definitely stays visible, but it is also fainter. Moving back in the other direction, Mercury gets more visible, even though it's further from us and closer to the horizon here than when it's up here at its greatest elongation crossing the ecliptic. We are seeing that much more of Mercury's illuminated face. So we can see there Mercury in pretty much darkness as early as the 12th at 7 o'clock if you're down at the equator. And coming around to the other side, we can still see the angle of the ecliptic changing a little bit. And that's because, of course, the Earth is a little bit tilted. So as we move around the sun, the angle at which we see the ecliptic will change no matter where we are. Even if you're at the equator, the ecliptic will have this little swap around the solstice where it goes from tilting to one side to tilting towards the other. And we can also see Jupiter sticking pretty close to the ecliptic there. Whereas Mercury, we can see this much bigger deviation from the ecliptic as it kind of comes out from behind the sun, higher than the ecliptic, crosses the ecliptic around its greatest elongation, and then comes down on the other side of the ecliptic on our side of the sun. And a combination of the face facing us and how much atmosphere is in the way, that's going to make Mercury look much, much fainter once it comes around to that position. We will quickly take a look from the southern hemisphere. We'll go pretty far because here Mercury at its brightest is going to be under the ecliptic. So if we come back here, Mercury's still there, roughly at its greatest elongation in early July. If we come back around, we can see that Mercury is under the ecliptic. and that means it's going to get blocked out by the atmosphere easier, it's going to get blocked out by the glow of the sun easier, and we can see Mercury as early from the southern hemisphere as we can from the northern hemisphere, just because of the angle that Mercury is making as it goes around the sun. The angle of Mercury's orbit, its orbital inclination. Of course, where we see the ecliptic in the sky has to do with our axial tilt, but Mercury relative to this ecliptic, that's down to Mercury's own orbital inclination. So we can see there, it's above the ecliptic pretty far into the future in the southern hemisphere, and that's partly thanks to the tilt of the ecliptic that we're getting when we're down south. Still there visible at its greatest elongation. And if we pull out a little bit, we can see that it's still fairly visible there. If we come back to the default location, back to Cork City in Ireland, of course everything's going to be all swapped around because we're after travelling so far. There is going to be a tree in the way, no doubt, but Mercury is, just out there, just behind the tree if you're in a location like Cork City. So coming back to the zero horizon, just to show what it's going to look like for us if you are down at the coast. There's Mercury at its greatest elongation, around its greatest elongation, barely visible. It gets easier as we come back closer to today. So I was surprised seeing Mercury visible above the horizon earlier in June rather than early July, because that is when Mercury reaches its greatest elongation, and especially for planets like Venus, we expect them to be at their most visible when they're at their greatest elongation. But as we can see from the tilt that Mercury itself has, from the tilt that the Earth has, and from how that all comes together with these angles at the horizon, for us Mercury is still going to be tricky to see when it reaches its greatest elongation. We need to get out earlier. So I hope you heed this warning. I hope you get a chance to see Mercury, and most of all, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel if you'd like to see more content like this, and you can read some of this information on my website, queebeanscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.